The closet smelled of cedar and my perfume, mingled with the metallic tang of adrenaline in my mouth. Through the sliver of space between the louvered doors, I had a perfect view of our bedroom, our marriage bed with its crisp white duvet I'd changed just that morning. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the camera, its small red light blinking in the darkness surrounding me. 20 minutes had passed since I'd heard the front door open, followed by his laughter, deeper, more genuine than I'd heard in months. And then a woman's voice, light and unfamiliar. "Are you sure we have time?" the woman asked, her voice lilting with anticipation. "Relax," my husband Elliott replied. "Mara's conference runs through Sunday. She won't be back until Monday afternoon." The bedroom door swung open. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. Elliott entered first, pulling the woman by her hand. She was everything I wasn't, petite, blonde, younger. She wore a sundress that seemed too casual for October, but her confidence made it work. As Elliott pushed her against the wall beside our wedding photo, kissing her neck, I pressed record on the camera. "I've been waiting for this all day," he whispered to her, and I recognized the desire in his voice, the same tone he'd once used with me. "Just checking," she giggled, pulling back slightly. "Your wife really doesn't suspect anything?" Elliott's smile faltered for just a moment before he regained his composure. "Mara, God, no. She's completely clueless." And that's when I accidentally bumped against the closet shelf, sending a shoebox tumbling to the floor with a hollow thud. 3 months earlier. "You're overthinking it," my best friend Vanessa said, stirring her iced coffee. "Elliott worships the ground you walk on." We sat on my back patio, enjoying the summer afternoon. I'd been sharing my concerns about the growing distance between my husband and me, the late nights at work, the distracted conversations, the way intimacy had become perfunctory when it happened at all. I know, I said, trying to convince myself more than her. "It's probably just the promotion. He's been under so much pressure since he made partner." Elliott and I had met 7 years ago at a charity fundraiser where I was photographing and he was representing his law firm. He'd charmed me by asking intelligent questions about my photography work instead of treating it like a cute hobby. We'd built a life I was proud of, a renovated craftsman home in a quiet neighborhood, successful careers, and plans to start a family once his partnership was secured. "The firm is brutal," Vanessa agreed. "Jordan said half the associates are on anxiety meds." Her husband worked in the same field and had opted for a smaller firm with better work-life balance. I sipped my drink. Not mentioning the other signs, the new cologne, the unexpected gym membership, the passwords changed on his phone, saying them aloud would make them real. "The Westlake conference is coming up," I offered instead. "Maybe getting away together will help us reconnect." Vanessa brightened. "That's perfect. Nothing like a fancy hotel to rekindle things." The annual photography conference at Westlake Resort was my career highlight. 3 days of workshops, networking, and inspiration in a luxurious lakeside setting. This year, I'd been invited to present my series on urban isolation, a significant professional milestone. "Actually," I said, watching a hummingbird hover near my flower baskets, "I was thinking of asking Elliott to join me this time." Vanessa's eyebrows shot up. "You've never mixed business and pleasure for that conference. It's always been your thing," I shrugged. "Maybe that's the problem. We've gotten too comfortable in our separate spheres." Later that evening, I broached the subject over dinner, a meal I'd prepared with special care, Elliott's favorite pasta with the wine we'd brought back from our anniversary trip to Napa. "The conference is Columbus Day weekend," I said, refilling his glass. "I thought maybe you could take Friday off, make it a long weekend together. The resort has that incredible spa you've talked about trying." Elliott didn't look up from his phone. "Columbus Day weekend? October 11th through 14th. He frowned, still scrolling. "I can't, Mara. The Colton merger will be in final negotiations. You can't step away for one weekend? Even Bradley said you've been working too hard." Bradley was the managing partner, Elliott's mentor. "Bradley doesn't understand what it takes to secure this deal." Elliott finally put his phone down, his expression softening slightly. "I'm sorry. I know your conference is important. But this merger could mean everything for my career. I nodded, swallowing my disappointment. I understand. Hey. He reached across the table for my hand. Why don't you still go? You've been looking forward to it, and you deserve to celebrate your presentation. We can do something special when you get back. I smiled, but something in his eagerness gave me pause. You're sure you'll be okay here alone? I'll practically be living at the office anyway, he said. Then added with a wink. The house will still be standing when you get back. I promise. That night, as Elliott showered, his phone lit up with a text. I hadn't intended to look, but the preview caught my eye. Can't wait for next weekend. Just the two of us finally. The contact name was Natalie C. Colton Legal. My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone, but it required a fingerprint to unlock. When had he changed it from our anniversary date to biometric security? I replaced the phone exactly as I'd found it and was chopping vegetables when Elliott emerged from the shower. Everything okay? He asked, noticing my rigid posture. Fine, I said, the knife coming down harder than necessary. Just thinking about everything I need to prepare for the conference. Over the next few weeks, I became a detective in my own marriage. Elliott's late nights grew more frequent. He took calls in another room. The joint credit card showed lunch charges at restaurants too expensive for ordinary business meetings. And there was the scent, faint but unmistakable, of an unfamiliar perfume that sometimes clung to his shirts. I considered confronting him, but something held me back. Perhaps it was pride or fear of what unraveling our marriage would mean. Or maybe I realized one sleepless night, I wanted irrefutable proof, something neither of us could explain away or minimize. 2 weeks before the conference, I called my presenter coordinator, Rachel. Is everything all right with your arrangements? She asked after our usual pleasantries. Actually, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. I need to change my attendance dates. I can still do the Sunday presentation, but I'll need to return home Saturday night and come back Sunday morning. That's unusual, Rachel said. The Saturday night networking dinner is typically mandatory for presenters. It's a family emergency, I lied. Very sensitive. I'd appreciate your discretion. Rachel was understanding, if confused. Of course. We'll adjust your accommodations. You'll miss the presenter group photo, but we can work around that. After hanging up, I sat in my home studio surrounded by my photographs, moments of truth captured in perfect stillness. In one, a woman stood at a window, her back to the viewer, looking out at a vast cityscape. I'd titled it Precipice. That's exactly where I stood now. I opened my laptop and ordered a small, high-definition camera with motion activation and night vision. The conference arrival day came with perfect autumn weather, crisp air and golden light that photographers dream about. Elliott was solicitous as he helped me pack, suggesting I take my best clothes to impress all those photography bigwigs. I put a little surprise in your suitcase, he said, kissing me goodbye in our driveway. Don't open it until you get to the hotel. The surprise was an expensive bottle of champagne with a note. To celebrate your success. You deserve every moment in the spotlight. Love E. The gesture nearly broke my resolve. Standing in my hotel room, I called Vanessa. Maybe I'm wrong, I said, staring at the champagne bottle. Maybe it's all in my head, Mara, she said gently. Trust your instincts. You're not a jealous or suspicious person. You never have been. I attended Friday's workshops and dinner with a pleasant mask in place, making connections and discussing techniques while my mind was miles away. Saturday morning, I participated in a panel discussion that received enthusiastic responses, then excused myself, claiming a migraine. The drive home took just over 2 hours. I parked 3 blocks away, in the lot of a shopping center, and walked back through the neighborhood park that bordered our backyard. Our privacy fence had a gate that we rarely locked. The house was empty when I slipped in through the back door at 2:17 p.m. With methodical precision, I placed the small camera in our bedroom closet, angling it toward the bed. The camera synced to my phone, which I would leave behind while I returned to the conference for my Sunday presentation. I repacked a small overnight bag and was about to leave when I hesitated, then went back upstairs. Instead of leaving immediately, I decided to wait. If nothing happened, I'd simply return to the conference by evening, and Elliott would never know I'd been home. I settled in the closet with a bottle of water and my phone, its battery fully charged. The space was uncomfortable but not unbearable. From this vantage point, I'd watched Elliott dress for work countless mornings, calling out questions about his day while I was still in bed. At 4:42 p.m., my phone vibrated with a text from Elliott. "How's the conference going? Knocking them dead with your brilliant photos?" With shaking fingers, I replied, "It's amazing. Just finished a master class on lighting techniques. How's your weekend?" His response came quickly, buried in paperwork. "Ordering takeout and pulling an all-nighter at the office. Can't wait to hear all about your triumph when you're back." I muted the phone and waited. At 6:23 p.m., I heard the front door open. The shoebox hit the floor with a damning thud, and the moment froze in tableau. Elliott and the woman still entwined against the wall, their heads whipping toward the closet. "What was that?" the woman asked, her voice sharp with alarm. Elliott's face drained of color. "Probably nothing. The house settles sometimes," but doubt had entered the room like a third person. The woman disengaged from his arms, smoothing down her dress. "Maybe you should check." Elliott approached the closet slowly, and I realized I had seconds to decide how to play this. Hide deeper? Jump out? I gripped the camera tighter, its weight reassuring in my palm. The closet door swung open. The look on Elliott's face would have been comical in any other situation. Pure shock transitioning to horror as our eyes met. "Surprise," I said, my voice eerily calm as I stepped out, camera still recording. "I came home early," the woman behind him gasped. "Elliott? What's happening? Who is this?" I turned to her, extending my hand with grotesque politeness. "I'm Mara, the clueless wife. And you must be Natalie from Colton Legal." Her eyes widened. "You're married? You said you were separated." Elliott found his voice. "Mara, I can explain." "Explain what exactly?" I cut him off, holding up the still recording camera. "How you brought your affair into our home. Into our bed? Or how you've been lying to both of us." Natalie grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it by the door. "You disgust me," she spat at Elliott. "Don't ever contact me again." "Natalie, wait." Elliott started after her. "Let her go," I said. "You've done enough damage." As Natalie's hurried footsteps receded down the stairs, Elliott turned to me, his handsome face contorted with a mixture of shame and anger. "You set this up. You were spying on me." "Yes, I was," I admitted, stopping the recording and tucking the camera into my pocket. "After weeks of you lying to my face, I decided to find the truth." He ran his hands through his hair. "This isn't what it looks like." I laughed, a sound so bitter I barely recognized it as my own. "It's exactly what it looks like. You were about to have sex with another woman in our bed while telling me you were working late." "It was a mistake," he said, his voice taking on the persuasive tone I'd heard him use in negotiations. "A momentary weakness. It didn't mean anything." "A momentary weakness that you meticulously planned," I countered. "You practically pushed me to go to that conference. I've been under so much pressure with the partnership." "Stop." My voice cut through the room. "I don't want excuses. I want the truth. How long has this been going on?" Elliott sank onto the edge of the bed, shoulders slumping. 3 months. The confirmation was like a physical blow, even though I'd suspected as much. "Is she the only one?" His hesitation was answer enough. "Who else?" "Does it matter?" he asked wearily. "It matters to me." He looked up, a flash of the old Elliott visible in his earnest expression. "There was someone before Natalie. It ended months ago." I pressed my fingers to my temples where a headache was blooming. "So this is just who you are now? A man who cheats on his wife? That's not fair." "Fair." My voice rose. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you made me think I was crazy for suspecting something? When you stayed out late and I worried about you? When I was planning our future while you were sleeping with other women?" Elliott stood, reaching for me. "Mara, please. We can work through this. We can go to counseling." I stepped back. "Don't touch me. You don't get to touch me anymore. You can't throw away 7 years over one mistake." 2 mistakes, I corrected. At minimum. And I'm not throwing anything away. You did that. Every time you lied. Every time you chose someone else. The fight seemed to drain out of him. What happens now? I pulled out my phone and held up the screen showing the camera feed. Now I go back to the conference to deliver my presentation tomorrow. I've worked too hard to let you take that from me, too. And after that? After that, I come home and you're gone. You can stay with one of your women or at a hotel, I don't care. But I want you out of this house. The house is half mine, he said, a hint of his lawyer persona emerging. I smiled thinly. True. But this video of you bringing another woman into our marital bed would be of great interest to Bradley and the other partners who are so big on the firm's family values. Not to mention the ethics committee, given that Natalie works for your biggest client, Elliott paled. You wouldn't. I don't want to, I said honestly. But I will if I have to. I'm not leaving my home because you couldn't keep your promises. We stared at each other across the bedroom that had once been our sanctuary. 7 years of history hung between us, inside jokes, morning coffees, dreams shared in the darkness. I did love you, he said finally. I still do, in my way. Your way isn't enough for me, I replied, gathering my overnight bag. I deserve someone who loves me completely, not just when it's convenient. At the bedroom door, I paused. I'll be back tomorrow night. Please don't be here. As I walked down the stairs, I heard him call my name once, softly. I didn't turn around. 6 months later, the gallery buzzed with conversation and the gentle clink of champagne glasses. My solo exhibition, Thresholds, had drawn a larger crowd than the curator had anticipated, necessitating additional servers and a hastily extended wine order. There she is. Vanessa appeared at my elbow, radiant in a burgundy dress. The woman of the hour. This is incredible, Mara. I smiled, still adjusting to being the center of attention. The exhibition featured 20 large-format photographs exploring moments of personal transformation. Some obvious, like a bride before walking down the aisle, others subtle, like an elderly man sitting on a park bench feeding pigeons, the empty space beside him speaking volumes. The centerpiece, displayed on the main wall, was a self-portrait taken the night I'd returned from the conference. In it, I sat on the edge of the bed in our empty bedroom, my back to the camera, facing an open window where the curtains billowed in a night breeze. The room was illuminated only by moonlight, creating deep shadows and a sense of both ending and beginning. Have you seen the reviews? Vanessa asked, guiding me toward a quieter corner. The Times called you a visceral chronicler of emotional crossroads. I saw, I admitted, still disbelieving. It doesn't seem real. Well, believe it. And believe that line of people waiting to talk to you, including, she nodded discreetly toward the entrance, that very interested-looking man who hasn't taken his eyes off you since he arrived. I followed her gaze to see a tall man in a charcoal suit studying one of my photographs with genuine interest. As if sensing our attention, he looked up, meeting my eyes briefly before returning to the image. Not ready, I murmured, though I couldn't deny the small flutter of interest. Maybe not for a long time. Vanessa squeezed my arm. No rush. Just making an observation. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks earlier. Elliott, facing the potential professional consequences of his indiscretions, had agreed to an equitable settlement. He'd moved to the firm's Boston office for a fresh start, according to mutual friends who still kept in touch with him. The house was mine now, though I'd recently listed it with a realtor. Too many memories lurked in its corners, both beautiful and painful. The proceeds would fund a year of travel, photographing thresholds around the world, from ancient doorways to modern boundaries, literal and metaphorical. Ms. Winters? A gallery assistant approached. The curator would like to introduce you to some collectors from the West Coast. Go, Vanessa urged. I'll find Jordan at the bar. As I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations and answering questions about my process, I caught sight of the man in the charcoal suit again. He was speaking with the gallery owner, gesturing toward my centerpiece photograph with appreciation. Later, as the event wound down, I found myself alone with the last glass of champagne, contemplating my self-portrait, It's extraordinary, a voice said beside me. The tension between vulnerability and strength. I turned to find the man in the charcoal suit. Up close, his eyes were kind, with smile lines at the corners. Thank you, I said. That's exactly what I was trying to capture. Gabriel Chen, he introduced himself. I teach photography at the university. Mara Winters. I know, he smiled. Your reputation precedes you. Your workshop at the Westlake conference last fall was brilliant. I blinked in surprise. You were there? Front row, he confirmed. Your perspective on isolation within connection resonated deeply. I've followed your work since then. A memory surfaced. A man asking a thoughtful question about negative space, offering an insight that had influenced my later compositions. I hadn't paid much attention to the faces in the audience that day, too focused on not revealing how my personal life was imploding. I remember your question, I said. About the absence being as important as the presence, Gabriel looked pleased. I'm flattered. Your timing was significant, I admitted. That presentation was a pivotal moment for me, professionally and personally. I sensed something profound behind the work, he said. The best art usually comes from transformation. The gallery lights dimmed slightly, a subtle indication that closing time approached. I should let you go, Gabriel said. But I'm giving a lecture on emerging photographic narratives next Thursday at the university. Perhaps you'd be interested. I considered the invitation. 6 months ago, I would have declined immediately, too raw from betrayal to consider even a professional connection with an attractive man. But the woman in the self-portrait had changed, had crossed a threshold into a new version of herself. I'd like that, I said, surprising myself. As colleagues, Gabriel smiled, understanding the boundary. Of course. Excellence in art should be celebrated regardless of the medium. He handed me a business card. My contact information? The lecture starts at 7. After he left, I lingered in front of my self-portrait. The camera had captured something I hadn't consciously intended. In the reflection of the window glass, barely perceptible, was the faint outline of a smile on my shadowed face. The woman who had hidden in the closet with a camera had been broken but not destroyed. In the shattering, she'd found pieces of herself that had been submerged in the comfortable routines of marriage. Her ambition, her courage, her unwillingness to settle for less than she deserved. I raised my champagne glass in a silent toast to her, to me, and to thresholds yet to be crossed. As I gathered my things to leave, my phone chimed with a notification. The gallery had sold the centerpiece photograph for an unprecedented sum to an anonymous collector. Attached was a delivery address in Boston and a brief message, a reminder of what was lost and what was found. May your journey forward be filled with the truth you always deserved. E. I slipped the phone back into my purse and stepped out into the night, where the city lights created their own thresholds between darkness and illumination. Whatever lay ahead, new work, new places, perhaps someday even new love, I would face it with eyes wide open, no longer hiding in closets or shadows. The camera had captured the truth, but I had set myself free.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.